every single time I get to tape one of my shows, I leave kind of in awe of the guest. And this time was no exception for sure. I mean, who didn't love Kirk Cameron if you're of my generation back in the day, teen heartthrob? There is so much more to this guy, which I think many people have realized over the last several years where he's been quite outspoken. But we began the show with a real emotional explanation of why the death of someone close to him, someone that you know, has affected him so much. From there, we went deep about his family, his 6 children, 4 of whom are adopted, becoming a grandpa for the first time, and producer Dave is here with me. How about that story about how he helped bring his family inadvertently to Christianity, right? So insane. And this is in the middle of when he was starring on Growing Pains. So from all those personal stories to also going kind of deep about what he believes is dividing America, trust me when I say you don't want to miss this episode of the Sage Steele Show starring Kirk Cameron. Enjoy.
Well,
Are you doing this? Are you keeping those on?
This is no joke. She was like, I thought you were being serious. Like I could just keep them on, but it sounds like I need to take them off.
I mean, I might judge you a little.
You might judge me a little?
I might judge you a little. I mean, if you're okay being judged, it's fine.
You're gonna laugh at my socks, though.
Really?
Yeah, and I wasn't planning to do this.
You're
gonna laugh at my socks.
This is amazing.
Ask me about them until we roll the cameras.
Okay. How about I don't look until you give me permission?
Are we getting close to being ready?
Are we rolling on all 3?
Okay. So
Kirk Cameron, we're always rolling. I mean, of all people, you know that we're always rolling. Okay. Tell me when I'm allowed to look at your feet.
You're good. I'm ready when you are.
I'm allowed to look at your feet. Oh my goodness. All right, if you've ever wondered how scammers get your phone number or why your inbox is flooded with spam, I can tell you why, and frankly, it's not good news. But it's definitely something you need to hear. It's also the reason why I am thrilled that Aura is the sponsor of today's show. Here is the deal. There are companies called data brokers that sell your data, and they do it without your consent, and they make billions of dollars selling your data to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And while they're legally required to remove your info if you ask, they make the process so confusing and they make it hard on purpose. So Aura takes care of the hard part for you, automatically removing your info from these sites, and they keep it off. It's kind of important, right? Aura is all-in-one digital security. Maybe you already have a digital security tool, but Aura is different. And if you don't have it, it's kind of like locking the front door, but leaving the back door open. So Aura will alert you. Number 1, alert you if your personal info is found on the dark web. That's number 1. They also, number 2, give you real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking. Number 3, Aura is committed to 24/7 monitoring to help keep your identity secure, support teams based in the US, and they're available round the clock if, God forbid, something does go wrong. All of us need insurance, right? Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection. That's a big deal. So one app, every layer of protection. Something I need for myself. I use it, and my 3 college-age kids too, because I need them to be protected as well. So why not try Aura for free for 14 days? Aura.com/SageSteele. That's 2 weeks. Enough time for Aura to start scrubbing your personal info off these data broker sites without you lifting a finger. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and neither should you. Aura.com/SageSteele. Try for 14 days free. AURA.com/SageSteele. Bacon and eggs.
Yes.
Can you get a close-up of this somehow? This just made me, those also look like red lips, which is awkward. It's bacon.
Yeah, no, it's bacon.
And eggs are over easy. Or just sunny side up. That just made my day. So this is the first person who does not need my socks.
No, I'm BYOS. Bring your own socks every time.
Even though you had no idea that this is my thing.
No, I didn't.
Which is
good. I've got other socks that are like fly fishing socks, and I think I've got some rooster socks as well because I really like chickens. I love to go fishing with my son. I have chickens in my backyard. We have backyard chickens because we sort of after the egg apocalypse a few months ago,
yes,
and there were no chicken eggs.
Yeah.
we decided to not be dependent on the grocery store. So we have chickens in the backyard, and yeah.
So that's a new thing.
So I've got some
so
creative socks.
you're a
new chicken farmer?
A new farmer.
You know, I've renewed my inner chicken farmer, because we had them when we were homeschooling our kids.
Yeah.
So we had like 30 chickens in the backyard, and the kids would run down there and grab the eggs every morning. And it's been really fun now that I have a granddaughter to build another coop and get everything ready so that when she can walk right in there and grab the eggs.
How cool is that?
Yeah, we're really excited.
Are you okay? I want to get into the grandfather thing. That's craziness.
Sure.
But like you cook. I mean, you do things like
Yeah,
this.
I do. I cook a lot. Yeah, my wife cooks a lot. We cook a lot. We have because all of our kids have grown and left the house in California. They all moved to different states because California is so expensive. Well, we ended up moving to Tennessee to be with them, and now we have Sunday night dinners with all of the kids and our granddaughter again, even though we're all from California, here in Tennessee. And so we have lots of cooking going on at the house. In fact, I'm right in the middle of making a lot of venison sausage.
Where'd you get the venison?
From the deer that we killed in
Your
Louisiana.
backyard. Oh, in Louisiana.
Yeah, we have some friends there. We go duck hunting all the time.
Amazing.
The chief duck hunter that we go with just went to be with Jesus a couple days ago.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm going to his funeral tomorrow.
That was a shock. I mean, and I guess, how old was he?
I think 79, I read.
Yeah,
I think he was
so
79.
not young.
No,
but
no,
still,
my dad is 80 years old.
Yeah.
And how did that affect you? How did the news affect you?
I guess not that I'm not surprised by much anymore. What does that say about me? I don't know.
Did you know Phil?
I did not know Phil.
Okay.
Of course, I knew of him. And what was the most interesting to me was to see the diversity of people who expressed condolences, who were so sad about his passing.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize that he affected so many. Why do you think that is?
Phil, if I could pick one word that would describe Phil to me, I like the word authentic. Phil was not playing a part on Duck Dynasty. Phil never plays a part. In fact, I've been to his house probably every Christmas time for the last 8 years because we go
Really?
duck hunting with my 3 boys there. And we were just there this last Christmas, and Phil was very sick.
Okay.
And one of the I gotta tell you the coolest story. Oh, by the way, so he lives in this double-wide trailer, and he was there back in the middle of Duck Dynasty, and I got invited to come over there for a squirrel casserole dinner by Miss Kay, and I'm thinking like, this is the craziest thing ever, but I wanted to be a good dad and take my boys there because they were big fans of Duck Dynasty. And as we're driving through the woods of Louisiana, way in the back country, I'm thinking like, I'm going to start hearing banjos any moment here. Yeah. This is going to be like a scene out of Deliverance. This is scary. And we finally pull up and the dogs are barking in the double wide trailer. And I'm thinking, where's the star of Duck Dynasty live? And they're like, Dad, that's his house. That's his house. I'm like, are you serious? It's this trailer, like up on like jacks in the woods. And he's in there sitting in his big recliner, didn't have socks on, but it was his bare feet in a white tank top, camo pants, bandana around his head, an AK-47 hanging from the mantle, and he had just stacks of dictionaries, thesauruses, encyclopedias, and Bibles, and a spit can for his chew, and he's got a remote in his hand watching Fox News.
No.
And I walked in the front door, and he's kind of eyeing me like this, going, who's this yuppie from California that just came into my house? But I was with Miss Kay, so he, and he's like, well, Phil, we got company. And I'm looking, and the place is just packed with all kinds of paraphernalia from Duck Dynasty and everything else. And he came over, and he just started calling me Cameron and listening to, things I was trying to say. He was a man of few words, and then eventually he just started sharing the gospel with me. Because what mattered to him was that I had my sins forgiven, that I knew who Jesus was, and I was on my way to heaven. Far as he knew, I was just some crackpot from California, some actor from the land of fruits and nuts. And if there's anything that he wanted, it was to influence me for the gospel. And that was just Phil. It wasn't a character he was playing, and he's been consistent every single time. Can I share one more quick story?
Please.
It's my last experience with Phil. I went there this last Christmas time to go duck hunting with my son and with my daughter's boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And he was a big fan of Phil Robertson's podcast called Unashamed. And it has helped him in his faith because he never grew up with a dad. And he looked up to Phil. And I said, well, come with me. We'll go duck hunting and maybe we'll get to talk to Phil for a little bit. So when we got there, I knew we were going to be on the river. And one of Phil's favorite things to do is baptize new believers. And I talked to this young man and I said, hey, listen, I know you're really growing in your faith. I said, have you ever thought about baptism? And he said, yeah. He says, man, I would. And he'd even been talking to my daughter about how cool it would be if somehow Phil, baptized him, but he never thought it was possible. So I called and we set it up and I drove him over there right outside of Phil's house, and his son Jace and him baptized this young man in the river, freezing cold in camo waders, and Phil presided over it because he was very sick. He couldn't get in the water, while Jace took this man's profession of faith, dunked him in the water, came out, tears streaming down his face. It was like the sky parted, and he came out of that thing like a new man.
Really?
And Phil was there just with him and presiding over the whole thing for like an hour. It was the coolest thing. And I remember he just said to me, he said, Cameron, he said, I'm sick. And we talked for a little bit, and he kind of went back to his room. And then I got the news. And so I'm going to be driving 8 hours there tomorrow to go to his funeral, to be there with his family.
In that moment, when he said, I'm sick, I mean, you knew that, but for him to say it.
Yeah, he's not the kind of guy who wants to, admit that kind of thing. He just powers through it, like, hey, just put your shoulders back and keep moving forward. He's a man of the land, of the river. I mean, he's a rough guy. I mean, he reminds you of a John the Baptist kind of guy. He's not a victim of anything. And in fact, he would tell you, if he could be here, I told you this day was coming. We've all got an appointment on the calendar and none of us are going to be late for it. He said, I've gone to be with the Almighty. And he's saying, this is the greatest day of my life. I've finally been set free from a body that's decaying. And my heart has been cleansed, and I'm in the presence of Jesus.
Did you feel that was going to be the last time you saw him?
And I apologize for getting so emotional about this. I really haven't talked to anybody about it. I've just been at home thinking about it. And I didn't even know Phil that well. Kind of a light friendship, but I just have so much respect for him, and his authenticity demonstrated that he didn't care about being on television or being a celebrity. He just knew that it was a platform that could advance the message that would transform people's lives and families. And so he tolerated the media. Yeah. And I just appreciate him.
Well, and for not changing.
Right.
And that double wide is proof, right?
Yeah.
One of many things,
When
probably.
I asked him, I said, why didn't you ever get a bigger house? I mean, I'm sure you could afford it. He said, why would I want a bigger house? He says, how many toilets does a man need? He said, how big do you want your bed to be? I'd have to, it'd take me longer to catch my wife as I was chasing her around the house. He's like, why does a man need a bigger house? He goes, the only thing that's changed since Duck Dynasty is we have a better menu.
Food's a little better. Do you think he understood the effect he had on so many?
Phil didn't own a cell phone. Didn't have one. Didn't have a computer. Didn't have a cell phone. And so if you wanted to get a hold of Phil, you'd need to get a hold of one of his sons or an assistant. And that's what I did. I'd always talk to him through an assistant. And so Phil wasn't looking at Instagram likes. He wasn't cognizant of subscriptions on YouTube. And so the effect that he had on people, I think he knew, and that's why he did the show. And for that, he was grateful. But it wouldn't have mattered to him. He would have lived the same life had the same conversations and been about the same things, whether it was 10 people or 10 million people.
Yeah. Even your daughter's boyfriend, though.
Yeah.
Like right there, he didn't know that young man.
Yeah.
And he spent, you said, an hour with him.
Yeah.
During the baptism.
Yeah, together with his son Jace.
Yeah.
And you know what was really
Yeah.
cool too was that Phil probably 5 years ago would have had that conversation with my daughter's boyfriend. But because of his sickness, I believe, his son Jace had the conversation and explained that what you're asking me to do, baptize you. He said, do you understand it? And he said, well, yeah. He said, you know, a lot of people think this is just a kind of the next step in your spiritual journey as a Christian is that you sort of like, you know, put the stamp of authenticity on this profession of faith and let's go get wet. And he said, no, that's not what it is. And that's why many people, they waffle and they waver. And he said, do you understand that we're going down there to bury an old man? And I kind of looked at him and I was like, man, Jace, where are you going with this? And he's like, a baptism is a funeral. Do you understand that when Jesus died and was buried, you were united with him in burial? And you have been crucified with Christ, the Bible says, and you no longer live. You see, we're going down there to bury somebody. Tell me who we're going to bury. And he began to talk about the former person that was not walking with God, that wasn't thinking about others before himself, but was controlled by desires of the flesh. And that's the man that he wanted to bury so that he could be raised a new man. And he said, all right, let's go have the funeral. And then they went down there and they got baptized. It was right. There was a whole beautiful perspective. And Jay said that while Phil watched the whole time. And I could just imagine how proud he was of his son in that moment. That it was like, my son got it. He understands it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And now, what do you do with that?
What do I do with that?
What do you do? Because you are still having an influence every single day, and the evolution of your career has been incredible to watch for so many of us, you know? But honestly, I think you have a choice. We all have choices. So you take what Phil taught you and apply it in your life.
You know, Phil didn't know that I was Kirk Cameron. I was the Christian. I was the guy in Left Behind. I was the guy in Fireproof. He'd never seen any of that stuff. So I was just a guy who needed to know about Jesus. And so he took a napkin when he first met me, and he said, Cameron, what year is it? And I was like, 2018. And he's like, and he writes it down. He says, it's been 2018 years since something happened. Do you know what it is? I was like, I think Jesus was born. He's like, that's right. And then he was crucified on a cross, and he was buried, and then he rose from the grave, and he ascended into heaven, and he's coming back. And he said, tell me about your sins. They can be forgiven. Right? He didn't know. I'm like, no. I'm the guy that says that to other people. I'm the...
Yeah.
But he didn't know. And I was like so blown away by his faithfulness to the call to share the gospel. And so I just remember how single-minded and focused and committed he was. And one of my favorite things he's always said is he says, Cameron, we're all headed for a 6-foot hole. And through the gospel, not only can you have your sins forgiven, but you can be raised from the dead. And he said, if there's any other way out of that grave, I want to hear about it. And I was just like, no, that's it. And he said, you know, the world is starving for one thing that it'll never find, and that's peace of mind. He said, it is the most valuable of all commodities, peace of mind, and I've got it. And I know that's how he died. His assistant, Dan, told me that he died at peace in his sleep. And the lights were flickering upstairs. He fell asleep, and the Almighty took him. Yeah.
Peace of mind. Gosh, that's hashtag goals, isn't it? It's what we all want.
Right.
Do you have it?
So, you know that I am a Christian, and so, I get up every morning, and part of my rhythms are to make the most delicious pot of coffee for my wife that I can, with lots of half and half piled high with whipped cream. And I sit by my chair in my socks. I'll admit it. It is comfortable. And I sit down to read the scriptures, and the scriptures say there's a recipe for peace of mind. And I've tried it, and it works. In Philippians chapter 4, verses 4 through 6, it says, "Be anxious about nothing, but pray about everything. With prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God with thanksgiving. And then the peace of God, which guards your heart and mind." The peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. So peace of mind and peace of heart can be yours if you turn your heart to God rather than worrying about things, and give thanks for everything, knowing that He's working it together for your good. And that kind of peace is what I have when I'm trusting God. I can get my sights off of the Lord, and I can fall into worry and doubt and anxiety and all those kinds of things, just like anybody else. I've got a friend whose wife was just diagnosed with colon cancer. She thought it was ovarian cancer. They're finding more fluid. And another friend whose dear wife just had a double heart and liver transplant.
What?
Yeah. And she has a congenital heart disease, and she's lived very, very long. And now it's come time to replace both organs. And you can see how people are dealing with circumstances that just defy our understanding. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of those things, I believe that we can experience peace of heart and peace of mind because there's a God who loves us.
And it is a choice. And I've had these conversations with my kids too. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in college. I have 3 college-age kids, and being in college and questioning and moving away a little bit. And then hopefully y'all come back to it. But there are questions I can't answer for sure. You could probably do a much better job than I could.
You too? Yeah. I got my list.
I know. But the only thing I know to say is faith is believing when you don't know where that road's going to lead you, you know? And that's way too vague for a lot of people, and I do understand that. But what do you tell people who, like your friends who have a reason to be heartbroken, frustrated, maybe even say, really, God, what's your point with all this?
Yeah.
What do we tell them?
Yeah. Well, there's many times like that where we have financial insecurity. How am I going to pay my bills? I'm an actor. And an artist, and so we're always between jobs. I mean, this could be it. I'm getting older and uglier by the day, and so pretty soon no one's going to want to see me on camera. And so I think, what's my other skill? Maybe I could be a chicken farmer. Who knows?
You're already mastering that.
Yeah, and then there's health insecurity, and then there's relational insecurity, right? So we don't know what's going to come down the pike to us. My crystal ball broke, and so I'm constantly just waiting to see what happens. But what I do know for sure is that even though we can't know the future, we can know the one who holds the future, and He makes promises. He says that he's working all things together for good for those who love Him and who've been called according to His purpose. So, if I really thought like I used to as an atheist that the world was just random and I am the result of a reproductive process that never really had me in mind, but was just, the offspring of the strongest and the fittest, I could just fall into depression and despair if things don't work out for me. But I can look back to the cross of Christ. I can look back to the death of Phil Robertson. I could look back to 4 years of the Biden administration, I could look back to all kinds of dreams I had that never came true, and I can say God used it all for good. Jesus bled and died on the cross as an innocent man, victim of treachery and murder, and his own religious team turned their back on him. And yet it was that paid the cost for the redemption of the world. And every dream I had that didn't come true made room and space for me to meet my wife, Chelsea, and to come to know peace and happiness and have a career that I never dreamed of. And so I know from the past that God is in the present and he'll take care of the future.
What year did you become a Christian?
1987. I was 17 years old.
You were on Growing Pains
Right in the
at
middle
time.
of Growing Pains. Yeah, it was right at the peak of its popularity. I was 17 and a half. Yeah.
You were an atheist before?
Yeah, atheist growing up, never went to church, didn't believe in God. I thought that the people who did were just faking it for their kids to keep Santa Claus alive and the Tooth Fairy and God. And then everything changed when I was about 17 and a half years old. Yeah.
Why? How?
How? There was a really cute girl who invited me to on a date. And there's always a cute girl involved in the picture,
Always.
you know? And they're good and bad, right? Like Eve was a great idea, but also she was trouble. And so, you know, girls can get you in trouble and they can also be the best thing that ever happened to you. My wife, Chelsea, certainly was the best of the best. But there was this girl who was really cute, and I asked if I could see her one weekend. She invited me to church, didn't know that I was an atheist, and I didn't know how to act at church, but I also knew I was an actor, and so I could fake it. And so I just watched everybody else, and I just said, yeah, well, while in Rome, you know, I closed my eyes during the prayers and everything. And I heard the message that Phil Robertson committed his life to. It was the good news that there was a God who made me on purpose, for a purpose, that I could be changed and healed on the inside. I could be set free of my guilt and shame of my past, and I could be given the gift of eternal life. And so I asked this girl's father many questions, and he gave me a great little book called More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell. I read it, and another one, Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And I began reading the Bible and going to another church with another friend and became persuaded that it took more faith for me to continue believing in atheism than it did for me to believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And so I said, you know what? I'm about the truth, and I got to follow the evidence where it leads. And so I can't be an atheist anymore. It's just too overwhelming. I've got a million questions that I can't answer. Like, what about, you know, I don't know how old the earth is, and I don't know what's going on with the Mormons or the Muslims, or whether or not women should be preachers and what Bible version to use, but I know I've got to die, and I know that I will need forgiveness, and I want it. And if God went to great lengths to offer it to me, I'd be a fool not to accept.
At 17 and a half, though.
Yeah.
That's incredible to me.
And you know why I was thinking about these ultimate things? Because I was on the set with little children who were dying of cancer and came to meet me and the cast of Growing Pains as part of their wish for their Make-A-Wish trip or their Starlight trip. And so I was watching 6-year-olds die. I was seeing 9-year-olds whose parents were just weeping because their child probably didn't have much more to live. And I knew at 17 that I could pull out into traffic, get hit by a drunk driver, and be standing on the brink of eternity just like that. One of my favorite voices of the past is a preacher named Charles Spurgeon, an English preacher of the 18th to 19th century, and he said, a man is helped to live by remembering that he must die. And if we think about the funeral and we think about eternity, we remember that life is short, eternity is very, very long. And what I do here, if it determines eternity, there's nothing worth half-assing it now, pardon my French, or not committing to what's right now. And I don't want to make that mistake.
They talk about that dash all the time.
Yeah.
And how are you going to live it? And
Yeah.
It is a choice.
Yeah,
but I
I
just
love
think
that.
it's profound that at 17 and a half years old, you were able to see that. Most are older, not everybody certainly, but like I was saying, with my experience, I always believed, but it definitely took much longer for me to really go deep. It's one thing to listen to what your parents say and go to church because you have to every Sunday and do okay, fine. And then it's a choice later. What did your parents say?
About what?
When you, at 17 and a half, said, wait a minute, there's a lot more out there. You taught me nothing.
So this is a really cool part of the story as well. And that is, at that time, when this pretty girl invited me to meet her at a church.
Pretty girl that's not Chelsea.
That's not Chelsea.
Okay.
At that time, my parents had separated. Their marriage was on the rocks and on the brink of a divorce. My mom had moved out of the house. She actually wrote a whole book about this called A Full House of Growing Pains.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Referencing my
You're
sister
kidding.
Candace on Full House, me on Growing Pains.
Yes.
She had moved out, and my dad was in a deep depression. I start going to church simply because I wanted to find out about Jesus and God and all of these questions getting answered. And when I started going to church, my dad started coming with me because he was told by a friend that it would be good for our relationship and it might give him some peace in the midst of my parents' breakup. And so he brought my 3 little sisters with him and me to church, including Candace, none of which had ever gone to church. And when my mom found out that her husband and 4 children were now going to church, she said, wait a minute, I've always wanted us to go to church. I went to church as a little girl, and I wanted to do this since we got married and had kids, but you never wanted to. You're not going to take them without me. So she comes with them and me, and all of a sudden, there's healing that takes place in their marriage. And then my sisters come to faith. My mom says, you know, this is what I've always wanted, and it healed their marriage. They got back together.
Oh my gosh, no
I know.
way.
And I got a chance to even baptize my own father
Stop.
about 10, 15 years later. So it was just, I'm so grateful. God has been so kind.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
To go from
How did you
nothing.
By the way, we never talked about this, and I don't think I've ever shared any of these stories on any other one's show before. How did you pull this out? I know what it is. It's the socks. It's the secret of the socks.
Well, I don't know. The key is you wouldn't take my socks. I mean, these aren't worthy of you. You brought your own incredible socks. So I say this is on you for opening up to No, but this is so beautiful, and I think there's so many lessons in this for people who are struggling. We all are struggling in some of our own ways, right?
Yeah.
But to see an entire family brought together and healed, that is God.
Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it, and I'm so grateful.
They must be so proud. Your parents must have been so proud to see, I mean, you really leading the way, and then of course your sister, I mean, Candace, I don't know about the other sisters, but for you to, and publicly to proclaim what you believe, right or wrong, it does take courage.
Yeah, it does.
Are your parents still here?
Yes, my parents are still here.
Wonderful.
Mom and Dad are doing great. Let me see. You had mentioned something about faith and it taking courage. And, you know, I think there's this notion that some people have faith, some people don't have faith. And I think that's not true. I think it is an inescapable aspect of being a human being. I think everyone has faith in something or in someone. And you're going to have to serve somebody. It may be the devil. It may be the Lord. It may be yourself. It may be what others think of you and their approval of you. It may be money. You can have masters of all sorts, but ultimately, you are going to fear that master and you're going to worship and obey that master. So you better pick a good one, because money makes a terrible god, and a spouse makes a terrible god. Children make terrible little deities, and they have a complex where they want to be the god of the house.
Yes, they do.
Right? And so do people who like to control others. And sometimes we just think, I don't want to have faith at all in religion because we have a bad experience with church or a concept of God, or we have questions we can't answer, like why didn't God heal my loved one with cancer? But at the end of the day, rather than being enslaved to lesser things, like your need to be approved, the cravings of your own flesh, your own insecurities or whatever, I want to be a servant of the Most High, the one who not only created everything, but the one who's laid down his life and calls me his son. Right? So like, I think it's a great privilege. And even if someone thinks that's poppycock, you're just a believer in fairy tales, you like the imaginary. No, what's actually imaginary is to think that you popped out of the ether, and that the entirety of the universe actually in the beginning was what secular scientists would say, or cosmologists, that it all was contained within something called a singularity, which approaches and actually is nothing, and then it popped into everything, and then that non-designed everything is able to make beautiful microphones like this and beautiful socks like these.
Yes.
Joe Rogan made that very point and said, I'm going with Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, talk about somebody who's made a transformation, who has chosen to dive in and at least examine it, at least try to get some questions answered.
Yeah.
Publicly.
Yeah.
So when you met your lovely wife, Chelsea.
Yeah, let's talk about Chelsea. One of my favorite subjects.
She's so beautiful to this day. And you would already become a believer, right? Because it was on the set of Growing Pains.
Yep.
And so 87-ish when you were saved. When did she enter the picture on set, literally?
So Chelsea was a model in New York City, and she came and began working on all sorts of sitcom shows, like Doogie Howser and Cheers and Seinfeld and all these other shows, right? It's kind of a small world there in Hollywood, sitcom world. And then she was on Full House, and then she came to work on Growing Pains and played Mike Seaver's girlfriend this one season. We just hit it off. We had chemistry, and we shared so much values, our faith, family, and we started an off-screen romance that led to me proposing, and then 6 months later, we got married. We've been married now for 35 years. We have 6 children,
Amazing.
28 down to 22. So when they were little, we had 6 kids under 7.
Goodness gracious. Right? Oh my gosh.
And now they're grown and they're starting their own families, married. We have a little granddaughter. And my wife's grandma name is Grandma Coco. And I'm Chief.
Okay.
Coco
please.
and Chief.
Please. Who gave you the name Chief?
Well, I kind of adopted it myself
You chose it.
because we moved to Tennessee, and that's where I became a grandpa, and all the grandpa names here are a little wacky. You know, they're like Peepaw, Papaw, Pawpaw, and I'm just not ready to go full Cracker Barrel.
No, please don't.
And I thought, when I heard that someone has their grandkids call him Chief, I thought, now that sounds pretty good.
Oh
Coco and Chief.
There's a ring to it for sure. My dad, because I provided the first 3 grandchildren for my mom and dad, he's Colonel.
Colonel?
Because he's a retired colonel.
Okay.
Fine, it fits.
That fits.
Chief fits you perfectly. It's just like Colonel.
You know, I could have gone with Captain, and I'll tell you why. I have an organic reason why. My father actually named me after Captain Kirk on Star Trek.
Oh.
William Shatner's character.
Oh.
The TV series.
I had no idea.
Yeah. The urban legend is that my sister Bridget was going to be named Spock if my mom hadn't stepped in. I don't believe it,
yes.
but the Captain Kirk one was real.
Thanks, Mom, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Captain would have worked.
I could have done Captain. That's right. I didn't even think
Chief.
about that. Yeah. We'll see what she calls me, because, you know, little kids, they try to say the right thing, and then it could come out like...
No, but Chief is good. That's one syllable. Colonel is tougher.
Yeah.
Coco, at least it's the same consonants.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. Just a repeat of Co.
Coco and Chief. That's so cute.
We'll see if it sticks.
So 35 years, Kirk. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm sure you get this question all the time, but my parents are about to hit 54. Such a blessing. I was married for 20 and divorced for 5.5 years now, and it was not the plan, certainly.
I don't think it ever is, right? You never go to the altar thinking this is going to blow up in my face.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully you're positive going into it. And then life happens and you figure things out and you make tough choices. And I'm so blessed to be engaged again. I found my person, and it took
I've
quite
met the knight in shining armor.
I know, he's hot.
Yeah,
huh?
well, I mean, that's kind of weird for a guy to, comment on that, but
I mean, you're happily married, so it's okay. We won't take it another direction.
But you guys, you look like you're a great couple.
We are. Thank you. It's such a blessing from God in 1,000 ways. And this is not about me. My point is, it is.
And the ring. I just noticed the ring.
How could you just
I'm so
notice
sorry.
the ring?
See, that's the thing with guys. See, girls notice the rings instantly. Guys were like, oh, the ring. Oh, that's.
I know. I've had to show my guy friends, and my girls are like, come here, and ripping off my hand. Yes. But it's, oh gosh, when I see someone, and we're very similar ages. You're 54? 53?
Yeah, you didn't need to out yourself, but.
I mean, I just said similar. I'm 52.
Yes,
so same.
I'll be 55 this year.
And
I get discounts. I'm taking every one of them.
You're already there?
That's all.
No, that's 60.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Do you lie about your age?
No. Yeah, I lie about my age. I say I'm older than I am just so I can get the discounts.
To get the discount, because, you're in between jobs as an actor, right?
That's right.
No, but what is there's not one key. That's the thing. I believe now, having been through it once, with not a thing I would change based on trusting that God has me where I'm supposed to be with 3 beautiful children. And now here we are. And I trust this process, his process. But gosh, communication, listening. So many things I think are keys. My parents talked about it recently. What has worked well and maybe not well for you that has still allowed you to get to today?
Well, let's just ask Kirk questions that bears his soul in about 5 different categories today.
Do you want another pair of socks? Let's go.
No. What has worked well?
I just bared wait, real quick. I don't talk about that often either. So you're pulling it out of me. I'm going to blame you too.
And it's when people actually feel connected to us, not just you and me, but any of us, my children feel connected to me, is not when I tell them about all my accomplishments, but when I talk with them about my failures or about my brokenness or about my hurts, right? Because those are the things that are so common to all of us. As you said, we're all struggling with things, all struggling with something.
Yeah.
Mistakes or guilt or shame or regret or just pain and grief, whatever. These are things we all relate to. So my marriage is still together today because I have an angel of a wife. And I've given her many, many opportunities to hone her skill of forgiveness. And I think that is the secret to success, is not to provide so many opportunities, but to have someone in the marriage who is really good at forgiveness. And I think the reason my wife is so great at this is because she's so grateful for coming back to our faith, this truth that God loves her no matter what, and that there's nothing she could ever do to make him love her anymore, and there's nothing she could ever do to make him love her any less, and that she is the object of God's love unconditionally, and she understands that's how you love people, your children especially, and your spouse especially.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that there's only one person on the planet that we can change, and it's not our spouse. Most of us try. We burn lots of calories trying to change that man or that woman and get them to think like we think. When rather, maybe the thing about them that's so challenging is the very thing that God will use as a tool to hone and sharpen and develop and mature you in the areas of patience or in the areas of forgiveness, or in the areas that you lack and need maturing. And maybe those things will never change in your spouse until, in God's time, it's the right time to move forward.
Yeah.
I've certainly found that there have been things that Chelsea, in her commitment to staying true to what matters most and not giving in to my selfishness, has actually made me learn how to live and love more like Jesus. And that's ultimately what I want to do. I would like to love Chelsea the way Christ loves his bride, the church. And that's about self-sacrificing service, not about, look at me, don't you understand? I'm the stuff. Because the stuff doesn't say that. You know, a real leader and a good man, a good woman, is someone who is overwhelmed with gratitude and lives a life of service.
You were young when you met too.
Yeah,
really young.
I was 19, got married when I was 20.
Gosh.
But isn't that? But I just had a conversation with a really good friend about this. You know, I think one of the tragedies of our culture today is that we have so pushed marriage off so far that we have created a whole slew of collateral problems. You know, we're made to be able to have babies at 15. Right? The hormones are there.
Yes.
All the parts and pieces are developed enough to where you can produce offspring, and particularly people who want to be men and women of moral integrity, understanding that marriage was designed by God to be in the sexuality was designed to be in the context of marriage. And if they're pushing marriage off till after college and they're financially stable with a good job and they're 25 to 30 years old, you're like, this is crazy. It seems as though you go back 300 years and people were getting married at 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. That was not weird at all, because you got a piece of land and you began to develop it and you started a family and you worked it and you had a life. It wasn't like, I've got to have a 3,000 square foot home and I've got to have a car and have a Netflix subscription and my cell phone and all this other stuff. So I don't know how we got into that, but
you know, it's so interesting though, because I said, "Oh my gosh, you were so young." That
being
is
so
how
young to
we've
get married. That's right.
How we've been trained though.
Yeah.
That now to wait. I was having a conversation with my youngest, who's 19, will be a sophomore in college this fall, and she's like, "Mom, I really want to wait. I want to make sure that I can afford kids."
Yeah,
and
sure.
They all say that, and I'm like, guess what? You'll never have enough money, be in the right house, have the right job. It will never be perfect. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, you'll never have kids if that's the case. And I do think this is what you said, that we've gotten away from that as a society, to the importance of marriage and to do it while you're young and produce.
I think so. And I don't think that means that everyone should get married at 15 years old. But what I do think it means is that it's culturally, we've set things up to where that's probably not a good idea for most people. And it's going to be a slow walk back to get there. But I think part of what's really been detrimental is the priorities of higher education. And this is a big conversation,
Sure.
but so much of higher education and the massive amount, the industry that it is, the money-making industry that it is, and the cesspool that it's become in terms of the kind of ideologies that are being taught to little kids. It's more like indoctrination than it is, not little kids, but young people, than it is education. And the message is, well, don't get married. Marriage messes up college, right? I mean, you got to go to college first, and so you can't go until you're 18. So you have 18, 19, 20, 21 before you finish college, and then hopefully you could go on to graduate school and other types of things. But I really think that getting married young is, generally speaking, a good idea if you're able to and if you can. And so that means taking your identity seriously as a kid. These aren't just like parenthetical years, the teenage years. You know, in the Jewish faith, you're a young man at 13 years old. You're a young woman. You have a bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah. Most cultures have had that forever, in Greek culture, in African culture, in Jewish culture, all of it. And today somehow we go, well, you don't really become a man until when? I don't know. When you graduate, when you're financially stable, when you join the military, when you have a beer, when you're intimate with someone, what makes you an adult? And all of it's so fuzzy. And I think that's why we have so many 30-year-olds who are still living in their parents' basement playing video games,
Yes.
acting like boys. And the girls are wondering, where have all the men gone?
A legitimate, genuine question. The other side of that I, because of how it played out for me is, okay, I met my ex-husband, I was 20, first real boyfriend. So, man, what a different person, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. I do see in some, like, I don't have advice for anyone because I do think it's personal and it depends on every single person's situation. But if you don't, you're all going to change, but do you grow together in the most important ways? What is important to you as a couple morally and your values, etc. But then the other side's like, yeah, just wait, because 20 to 28, like you are a completely different human, you know? I don't know. Part of me says, like with my oldest, who's just turned 23 and just got her first job and is moving here to Tennessee. And I'm like, oh, girlfriend, you need to wait. Like, you need to wait, you know? But based on what? I don't know. Maybe if she meets the right person at 23, then that would provide a beautiful relationship, teammates that I hope that she eventually has. It's so hard.
Yeah, it is. I know. And we have 6 children too, so we're in the same boat. We're you know, hoping and praying for healthy, happy marriages and families, lots of grandbabies. I've got the chicken factory started.
Ready.
You know, like we're ready. I heard someone.
I'm sorry, you started early too. I mean, obviously you get married young, so then you're having these babies really young. Babies.
Pretty young.
And you're still in Hollywood.
Yeah. One of the things I love about Chelsea and my story is that we really kind of grew up together.
Yeah.
Because we got married young. So I've been alive, married to Chelsea longer than I've been alive without her.
Yes.
Right? So I know me with Chelsea longer than I knew the me before Chelsea.
It's beautiful.
Which is really, really so great. And someone had mentioned this to me the other day, and I just thought it was great. You know, sometimes our sons and daughters, they lead the relationship by diving into the deep end of the physical aspect of the relationship, right? It's like, oh, you're really cute, and oh my goodness, like, you know, let's make this official. And all of a sudden, you're just in over your head with a sea of emotion, and so you're blind to so many of the things you end up seeing 10 years later, right?
Exactly.
And you're like, I wish I had seen this, but you can't. It's just the emotion is too much there, and there's the intellectual, mental aspect of the relationship. Our view of the same mind and mindset and worldview. There's the spiritual aspect. Are we aligned in these things? What will we teach our children? What do we think about politics? These are huge issues. And so my friend had said, you know, the design is really to say, wait a minute. Before we dive into this relationship like we're married, because if it doesn't work out, what we're really doing is practicing divorce. If I have 14 girlfriends and I'm in love with all of them and sleeping with all of them, and then we break up with all of them when I find my person, you've kind of practiced divorce on an emotional level a lot. And that's not even healthy for the marriage to the person you actually do want to be married to, right? So
great point.
Yeah, and so we were talking about the fact that, you know, the way to do it is take your eyes off of the opposite sex and put them on Jesus, and then pursue what is true and good and beautiful. Pursue righteousness and goodness and honoring God. And as you're chasing after that goal, sooner or later, you're going to look to the left and you're going to look to the right, and you're going to find a girl who's running right alongside you after the same goal. And if you're running with her long enough, as you're both pursuing that, now that could be a good match.
Yes.
But what we do is instead we pursue that girl or we pursue that guy, and we actually then turn them into the one that we think is going to give us our purpose, our identity, and our happiness. And people don't make good gods.
No, they don't. That is confirmed. That is a fact, not an opinion.
Yeah. So we got to teach our kids this, and that's why it's so important that we stay in relationship with our children. As frustrating as it can be, as hard as parenting is, I think the most important thing is to stay in relationship with them through their mistakes, through their insane decisions, all the embarrassments and disappointments. You know, the feeling's mutual. They're disappointed and embarrassed too by things that we do.
Yeah.
But if we stay in relationship, we can continue to be a good influence and friends, and we can help each other.
How is your relationship with all 16 kids that you have? 16, same thing in my mind. Yeah, I mean, that's...
It's great. It's really good. And like, as you said, every child is different, so every relationship is different. And yet they're all coming over for Sunday night dinner. And that's the goal for us, is that our kids still want to come back home when they don't have to.
Yeah.
Free food is helping.
It's helpful.
I know that's part of it. I'm not discounting the value of free food, but I think they also like being with us.
Well, yeah, at some point it is a choice to make that drive over.
Yeah.
And for all of them to choose to do that.
Yeah.
And your oldest daughter is the one that provided you the grandbaby, yes?
That's right. Yep.
When was that?
So our granddaughter is 9 months old.
9 months.
Yeah.
The pictures are amazing.
Yeah.
And you are over the moon.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like from social media.
And it's the cheeks. Yeah. That's what melts your heart. It's the cheeks and the little knowing smile. Like, that's my chief. I've been looking for him, and I finally found him. And those cheeks for weeks, there's so much kissing space on those cheeks. And we just love spending time with her.
Is it as different as everyone says?
Well, I mean, it is.
You're not changing your diaper every day, but
raising children. Now, we adopted our first 4 kids. So out of our 6, 4 are adopted. And just, like receiving a child, choosing a child, making a baby, like it's all a miracle. It's all amazing. But then watching your baby have a baby, and you get to kind of do it all over again, but in this way where there's none of the really difficult parts. So like we get to give her back when she's crying.
Yes.
And there's no more 2 a.m. 2 a.m. feedings, and all of these other kinds of things. I mean, occasionally, when they go out of town, they need us to watch her. But my daughter's such a great mom. My son-in-law, he's just such a great husband and such a great dad. They're all in, and grandparenting is one of those things that is not overrated. It is truly next level.
Why did you choose to adopt? Why did you begin with your first 4?
Well, my wife is an adopted child, so that was part of her story from the very beginning, and also for her brother. So as adopted children, it was the most natural thing in the world to be given a special mom and a special dad and a home. And so when we talked about having kids 7 years after we were married, we decided that we would start our family through adoption, and actually never discussed having children the traditional way. And so we adopted 4 kids in a row, 1 year after the other. And then it was sort of a surprise to me when one day Chelsea told me that the bathroom sink was broken and if I would go fix it. And so when I went to go look at it, she had a pregnancy test sitting there at the faucet that said positive. And I was like,
How that
What
happened?
is this? I don't know how this works. But something is positive and not negative. And she said, we're going to have a baby. And I was like, wow, 6 years of not having a baby and then 4 years of adopting kids. So 10 years had gone by and I just thought, wow, this was a huge surprise. And Olivia was born, and then about a year later, the sink broke again.
Oh my gosh.
And we had another one, James.
Well, you're saying that you didn't have plans to try to have your own?
No, we really didn't. And this was just like, it was a shock. It was a surprise. It wasn't like we tried to have kids and couldn't. We were intentionally not having kids in the very beginning of our marriage because we were working on Growing Pains.
Sure.
And we were working on a spin-off after that called Kirk. And so we were like, well, we want to give our all to babies. And my wife is so all in with kids that she wants to be a mom way, way more than she wants to be an actress. I mean, it's not even like in the same universe. And so she knew that once we had kids, she would dip from the acting scene and she would be all in as mom. Mm-hmm. And so we did that through adoption. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, 4 years later, Chelsea's pregnant.
The fact that you go 1, 2, 3, 4, tiny break, and then 2 more. Like, you guys don't waste time.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Apparently.
Apparently not, once you figured out how that whole thing worked.
Right.
Your oldest daughter's biracial, right? Is she?
Yes. Actually, 3 of our kids are.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Actually, 4 of our kids are biracial.
And black,
I was going to say 3. 4 of our kids are biracial, yeah.
What are they?
Like races?
Yes, as a biracial kid.
Yeah,
that's why
I know.
Usually I can look.
You know what?
I can tell.
I'm so used to wanting to reframe the sentence, but I won't with you because we're copacetic, right? Like,
well,
we know. I want to say no. There's one race, and it's the human race. You have a different amount of melanin in your skin, and different cultures and backgrounds. But
I don't even know how to ask the question though. Like when I see, and you guys, you've seen it when I've gone up to someone, I'm like, "Hi." Usually it's a hair thing. Oh, you have pretty hair. You too. What are you? And we'll say that because we know that there's something mixed up, and it's almost like it's okay but there's got to be a better way. So teach me.
No, I don't even know how to respond to that.
Don't. Never mind. But is she? What's her name?
Okay, so our first 4 kids.
Yes.
Bella. Yeah. Her mom is like white as a marshmallow, and her dad is black. And then we have Jack, who's our oldest son, same thing. And then Anna, same thing. And Luke, I believe his father was Hispanic and his mother was really light-skinned Caucasian.
Okay.
And so we've got this really beautiful, all shades of human in our family.
Yes. It's funny. I was telling someone today, actually I was talking to Dr. Benjamin Carson earlier today, one of my heroes.
Ooh, Benjamin Carson. I like that.
How about that name drop?
Probably just you and his mom call him that.
What's that?
Probably just you and his mom call him Benjamin Carson.
Benjamin Carson. Yes, Benjamin.
Yes. Or maybe when Candy's really upset with him, she pulls out the Benjamin.
Benjamin. How can you be upset with him?
Sweetest. How could you be upset with Ben Carson?
He's so sweet. But we were talking about race and being biracial and how for years we had this 4th of July family reunion. And because my mom's white, Irish Italian, my dad's black. And then, all this, the aunts and uncles married, you have no idea when we would sit down for our family photo, who goes with whom. Nobody. Clue.
Yeah.
And I loved it. That's America, right? Just the diversity and the melting pot that we brag that we are. And then sometimes it can go another direction. And as someone who's biracial and has experienced a lot, and you're not enough of this, and you're too much of that, and you're a sellout, and all the things. I will fight that. And it will probably always be, but I will fight. Like now that I'm old with a big mouth, bring it. I love going hard on that one.
Come on, Mama, don't play.
Do not even. I've never been in a fight before, but I'd like to over that. I'll pull hair and I'll do whatever it takes because it's so stupid and it's so hypocritical for what most of these people preach. And
Yes, and I remember one time, this isn't the race category, but the adopted category, where we'd be standing in a grocery store line and someone behind us would see my wife with all these kids, right? And they're all these different colors.
Yes.
And so then she would ask my wife in front of the kids, who are like 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, which ones are yours?
Stop.
Right? And like, it's a legitimate question if you think, okay, I get what she's thinking. But would you think before you phrase your question? Right?
How do you? She's mine, but he's not,
Yeah.
and he's listening.
Yeah.
Like,
right. Or no matter how my wife answers, they're still learning something about the way people think of them.
Yes.
From the question that she
Yes.
asked. Right? And they're all ours. And so I think, whether it's race or whether it's adoption, adopted or not adopted, we start to divide one another up into these categories. Gay and straight and vaccinated and unvaccinated, or black and white, or adopted and non-adopted, or Republican and Democrat, and based or, liberal. Like, would you stop?
Yeah.
Let's just stop doing all that and say, like, you're a person made in the image of God with inherent dignity and worth. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
And by the way, like, you've got a whole different background than I do. You come from a different culture, and God's writing a story that I find fascinating, or maybe I'm scared of based on what I see, but I want to hear your story, and let's learn from one another. If we can do that, oh my goodness, think of the progress that we could make.
Oh,
We would truly be progressive rather than regressive,
Yes.
which is what we're doing now, is we're dividing one another up. And I think there are groups that, even Ben Carson taught me this, there are groups that actually profit off of the racism industry.
No, oh, absolutely.
He talked about the racism industry. That makes money by keeping racism alive. This is Ben Carson telling me this. And he said they can't afford to let it die. That's why they keep it going. They fuel the fire. They got to fuel the fire on your sexuality.
Yes.
And keep the fight alive, because you can raise money off that to fix the problem for the victims in the fight.
Black Lives Matter. I mean, the facts came out about that, and it's heartbreaking because I think so many good people said, "Oh yeah, I'm not a racist," and internally, here's proof.
Yep.
I'm donating to this.
I got a virtue signal to everybody,
Yes.
so I feel good about myself, and you feel good about me. If you
But
feel
then
good
these
about me,
people
I
were
feel good about
cheated.
me.
And they were cheated out of that money with good intentions, most of them handing it over.
Yeah.
And then look what they did with it. So, and
Yeah.
the reason I ask about that, I mean,
That's why I appreciate you. Can I just mention this? And I just sort of, you have been someone who's been not afraid to share your opinions, even when they are contrary to, the cultural current and the political winds, and you've had to pay a price and a cost for that. But like the rest of us appreciate you and are so grateful for you, because you know what? It puts wind in our sails and puts steel in our backbone so that we can stand up straight, shoulders back, and move forward. So I think that's true for everyone who does it, whether it's Riley Gaines or it's you or it's Coach Joe Kennedy, who took a knee at the 50-yard line, or whether it's Ben Carson doing what he's doing. It all matters.
Yeah.
The mom that just doesn't give up on her kids and hangs in there with them even when it's really hard. Whatever it is, do what's right over the long haul, and you'll be blessed.
You will love this, and thank you for saying that. I think sometimes I just did what was in my heart at the moment, even though I didn't want to listen, because it was a lot safer and cheaper and easier to just keep my mouth shut.
Sure.
And then you go, okay, wait. One of the problems with me, there's a long list, but my parents and my dad in particular raised us to have memorized part of the cadet prayer from West Point, where he went to school.
Oh, wow.
And many people who watch the show, I'm sorry, get bored with it, but it has literally guided me in every aspect of my life.
I've never heard it.
Help me to choose the hard or right instead of the easy or wrong, and never to be content with a half truth when the whole can be won. Hard or right. We usually know what it is.
Yeah.
even if it sucks, even if we don't want to go there with it and don't
Love
want to
that.
stand up and speak up. And Riley Gaines could have stayed silent and not had her life threatened and physically harmed at times when she was just there to stand up for women, you know? Many of us have so many instances where it's easier, but I think deep down, like, we know that we're not doing the right thing, and it isn't just about us. So when we do that right thing, it actually ends up helping others. That's what I've learned, and that's what has made it easier
Yes.
to do it, you know?
Yep.
But I do think that I understand the fear that people have. It is real. And I've always said, like, I'm a prime example of why many people just say, no, thank you. You go fight that. And I get it. Like, there are times where I'm like, gosh, was that really the right thing? Now I know that it was, and I wouldn't change a thing. The cancellations, the loss financially, all the friends, all of it. But I do think you have to ask yourself that at times, like, what is the right thing? That goes beyond that moment that we're in. Because that's for that, fleeting moment, right? But one decision could really change. But it's been so cool for me to watch Riley, right? I mean, she's literally half my age. I mean, I'm more than twice her age. Is that how you say it? Yeah. I am old and she is not, and she is inspiring me because she continues to choose the harder right. And I feel like if our kids and grandkids and strangers alike can watch people like that who are choosing, it is courage, led by faith, though. I think that's kind of the full circle part of it, is it if it comes back to faith. That hard, right, easy, wrong is a prayer.
Yeah.
You come back to
I love
it.
that.
It's a beautiful thing.
Man.
And by the way, I wanted to clarify, the reason I ask about the biracial thing is because it has been a source of angst for me at times, not because of my own doubts in myself, but because of society and what comes at you for.
So, yes,
in my case,
it's been made a big thing.
yeah, and it's sick. But so now I want to encourage biracial kids out there, like, you don't have to choose. They're telling us you have to choose one, and it's almost always choosing black.
Yeah.
And I said on The View once, which got me in trouble, not so much then, but when I repeated it in 2021, then it totally blew up. But I'm pretty sure that, like, my white mom was there the day I was born. And so I'm proud of that. I'm proud of being 50% each, and so proud of both of my parents. And why is that a bad thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then you hear people say, I see this all the time, Kirk, and I don't know if you and Chelsea did at the time or have since, but why? Why would a white couple adopt a black kid? If you're biracial or black, right? Why? Why would they do it? They don't understand the plight. They don't understand the life that kid is going to have in front of him or her. Why? Have you ever received any of that? Was there any of that at the beginning with your daughter?
No.
Or any of your kids?
No, we didn't consider that. What we did consider was that we wanted to adopt children because we knew that these kids needed a home.
Yeah.
They were part of an unplanned pregnancy, and they didn't have a mom and dad. They needed a home. We wanted to be parents, and so we were like, give us whatever.
Yes.
Right? Like there wasn't a barrier, and we wanted to learn how to be the best parents we could to those kids, regardless of the color of their skin,
Right.
or the color of their parents' skin, or their, it wasn't like filters on IQ and eye color and, heritage. It was, no, like, we trust that God's going to bring us the kids that he wants us to raise. And at the end of the day, I think God brings families together in all sorts of beautiful ways. If you think about it, Moses was adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. You think about it, Jesus was adopted by Joseph on a human level because he wasn't the father. And everyone who is a Christian by faith has been adopted into the family of God. And so all of these distinctions, they pale and they fade away in the light of what it means to be a human being and to be in a family and to be part of the family of faith.
It's so simple.
Right?
and we screw it up.
We've really screwed it up and made it really hard and complicated.
Yeah, but you're not. I mean, you are making it simple. And I don't know. I mean, do you ever think back on, that before you were 17 and a half, you were only 17.
Right.
And years after that, I mean, teenage heartthrob and on the cover of every single one of our magazines. And I know you've heard this, but look at what you've done. And yes, the influence that you have allowed God to have on you because you welcomed him in, and your wife and your kids. I mean, the influence that you're having now compared to then, very different.
I've noticed a shift in my thinking from when I was a young man, just in a panic, wanting to make sure that I had some sort of a career so that I could pay bills and raise a family. Every actor usually starts out as a waiter, or waiting tables doing something on the side until the money train comes in with a show or something. But now, while I still have to pay the bills, and you've got kids and grandkids and they need help, and so that never really goes away. I thought my overhead would decrease once the kids left, but it hasn't yet. It's still there. I am thinking more about what do I want to help my children build and leave that will last when I'm gone. And so I'm excited about writing books for children together with Brave Books about things that matter, like virtue and values and character and faith. And that's led to some fun bouts with drag queens at public libraries and hit the news. But that's been exciting too, because now we've got the Department of Education calling us, wanting to join us with the Center of Faith at the West Wing to possibly be a part of this National See You at the Library Day, where hundreds of thousands of parents and grandparents are coming in all 50 states of the country to public libraries to read books of virtue and character to children, contra books on drag and men giving birth.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be a part of that. And a new show that we have coming out for children called Iggy and Mr. Kirk,
which that's I'm with hoping, Angel Studios, right?
It's being streamed on Angel Studios app right there, along with The Chosen and also Pure Flix, and it is a new Mr. Rogers for this generation's families. So think of Mr. Rogers meets Sesame Street with all these little animal puppets, only it's faith friendly. It teaches biblical values to support what parents want rather than undermine it, like Disney has been doing and Nickelodeon has been doing, sadly. And Mr. Kirk is raising this adorable little 5-year-old green iguana named Iggy in his backyard treehouse. And he's got to learn all the lessons that every 5-year-old today needs to learn about identity, about purpose, about trusting his parents, about overcoming fear, about being honest, forgiveness. And he's surrounded by all these other animal characters, including a vulture named Culture, who's always lying to him and deceiving him. And so he's got to rely on his parents' wisdom and a base chat GPT,
a
non-woke supercomputer, which he has access to and tells him the truth about the world that is out there waiting for him. And it's adorable. It's called Iggy and Mr. Kirk. It's out now. People can go to braveplus.com or the app. You can download it and watch it for free. And then soon it will be on the Angel Studios app as well as PureFlix.
That is so cool.
I'm so excited about this stuff.
Did you see the energy level when he's describing this? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that is a choice to continue with this messaging, which we so desperately need. And you mentioned
we got to pass it on to our kids.
That's
the thing.
Yes.
We got to pass it on to our kids.
But I'm so excited about what is happening with the Department of Education, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, they're dismantling it and they're blowing it up. No, we're getting the crap out, and we're actually going to focus on STEM and educating our children again, but getting those things out there that have dismantled our culture. But again, you could sit back and say, I'm good. And you're choosing not to. You're choosing to keep going with your podcast, with this show, with so many things, Chief.
That's right. That's right. We could sit back and, spend our retirement years just hanging out in Florida, collecting seashells for the rest of my life. but I choose not to. And I think you should consider the same, Sage. I think that you should come to Tennessee where they use whiskey for communion. And where there are, they don't really, I'm just playing.
They might. Show me that church.
Yeah. And now the bugs are real.
Yeah, they're legit.
The mosquito, I believe, is going to be officially dubbed the state bird here in Tennessee. But
so you miss California, is what you're saying?
I miss the lack of humidity. But I do want to spend the years that I have investing into the next generation, because it's the education of our youth that will perpetuate our freedom, our opportunity, and our success. A founding father said, very, very importantly, his name was Noah Webster. He gave us Webster's Dictionary. He was the father of American education, and he was a Christian. And he said every civil government is based on some religion or philosophy of life, and the education of that nation will propagate the religion of that nation. He said in America, that foundational religion was Christianity, and it was for 200 years sown into their hearts through the home and through the schools, public and private. He said, our liberty, our prosperity, and growth is the result of a biblical way of life. And the future of our freedom and success depend on educating the youth of America in the principles of Christianity. Yes. So you don't have to like the principles of Christianity or even believe in the Bible. But if you like the fruit that's hanging on the American Republic's branches, when it's healthy, freedom, liberty, opportunity, prosperity. You have to understand that it comes from the root of a set of values that produced it. Now, if we sever that root and we chuck those principles, the fruit will begin to wither, shrivel, be gnarled, pitted, bitter, and sour. And that's what we're seeing in the disintegration of the American value system and dreams and education and marriages and everything else. But the key is not to chop down the tree and let's go full China or North Korea or let's go Canada and let's be full socialist Marxist. No, are you kidding? No, that produces worse than lemons. That produces poison. What we do is we reattach the root and we begin to nourish it and teach our children to value the root so that they too can enjoy the fruit.
You give me so much hope, honestly.
Truth wins. And so hope is a person and he never lies. And so we can all have hope.
You're living it. And thank you for almost 40 years. Gosh, you're old. 40 years of...
It's fun when that doesn't bother you anymore,
I know,
right? Like you get to, well, no one says that to you, but you know, it's fun to like lean into to all the different chapters in the story, because sometimes the end of the story is the best part of the story, and that's what I'm hoping for me.
Oh, I know that's what it is for you. And I mean it. It's 40 years of smiles and now, but nothing more important, I think you would agree, than what you're doing now and the way you're choosing to do it. And as chief.
Can I mention one more thing and then have your editors weave it in there somewhere?
Yeah.
So the most exciting project that I'm working on right now.
I thought it was the
Iggy and Mr. Kirk?
Yeah.
Well, it is one of the most important projects I think I've ever done. But there's another one that just started, and I can't wait to tell everybody about it. It's called, it's a new podcast that's on YouTube, and it's called The Kirk Cameron Show. And I never wanted to do a show called The Kirk Cameron. What's your show called?
The Sage Steele Show.
Okay.
You wanted to do the Sage Steele Show, didn't you?
It's risky to call your show that.
I know.
Because if this doesn't do well, you don't get a redo.
I know.
There's no Sage Steele Show number 2.
No.
Retake. You can't do it. So you better be good. And so I've never wanted to like just put myself out there with that. So, you know, it's takeaways with Kirk Cameron Or it's Growing Pains, starring Kirk Cameron,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But I'm all in on this new podcast where I'm able to work with my son as my director and
You're
producer.
kidding. I didn't know that.
With my other son as my co-host and producer, and my daughter, she's running everything social media, and my daughter-in-law. And so it's a chance for me to talk about the stuff I never get to talk about on other shows, which is I'm tackling unfiltered my view on politics and culture from a biblical perspective, and then helping families find truth in all of the chaos of today's culture. And morning coffee devotionals on Monday, Wednesday dangerous conversations with my son about relationships and addiction and mental health, and then Friday political wrap-ups of the week.
Wow.
Yeah, and
lot.
I'm loving it.
That's a lot. When did it begin?
It began last week.
Okay, this
It just
is
started.
breaking news.
Yeah, so last week, and nobody really knows about it yet. But I'd love for everyone who's watching us to go and please
cool.
subscribe and help me get this show everywhere.
Okay, that's the tagline that I have not mastered. Where can you find it, Kirk?
Well, you can find it on my channel on YouTube.
On YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts.
And everywhere you get your podcasts. That's right.
Subscribe and like and comment.
Subscribe and like and comment.
The fact that you're doing it with your family, with
that's
your
the best
kids,
part. That's so cool.
That is so cool. So then you're going to be stirring the pot on Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays. And my son gets to pick the conversations every time.
How old is this son?
My son is 22.
Okay.
And so he's into all the things and all the stuff, and so he wants to know, like first I asked me, Dad, what does it even mean to be a man in today's culture? Because we've got guys in dresses and painted nails, and there's a bunch of other people who want men to just go away and hide in a corner because they say that they're just they're poison to the culture. And then there's girls who are saying, well, where did all the men go?
Oh, yeah.
So what does it even mean, and what does it look like to be a man today? So we get to have these great conversations. Or he just watched that social media documentary, The Social Dilemma.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked to me about how he didn't realize how addictive social media actually is because we just grew up with it. Mm-hmm. And we discussed its relationship to mental health.
Oh, it's brutal.
So these are great conversations
I love it. I love it. And it isn't just for his age group, my kid's age group. It's for us as parents.
That's right.
Who are trying to navigate it, and grandparents, right? I mean,
for sure.
We have to all know how to do this now. And if we don't know what's on it, that's a problem. So, okay. Check out the Kirk Cameron Show.
Check out the Kirk Cameron Show on my YouTube channel.
And make sure, because he does not get a take two.
That's why I don't get to take two. I don't get to do this over. So
this is it.
I got to nail it the first time.
I'm so excited for you.
Thanks.
And when I come knocking on your door, I'll find your address because I need bacon and eggs.
I can tell you where you can get bacon and eggs.
Bacon and eggs.
At the Nashville International Airport. I do all my best shopping at airports.
I'm there way too much.
My wife's not happy about this.
No,
but
because
that's
that means
where I find my best socks.
But Kirk, that means they're 8 times the price that they would be elsewhere.
I know, but they're great.
Okay,
they're great
fine.
socks.
Thank you for showing the world your socks. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.